Good morning, everyone. I thought I would do a little video on how I made little noodles for you to be able to make your own little noodles. So Merry Christmas. I'm not going to sell it out in a pattern. I just thought I would do a little video and you can make your own. Bear with me. I'm doing this on the fly this morning. Let me set him aside. Little noodles is made using these small little bottle gourds, and if I get the thing here, ruler, you can see he's only maybe 2 3/4 inches long, 3 at the most, so they're real tiny bottle gourds. Now if you don't have these, you could use a light bulb, you could use styrofoam balls, anything that you have on hand. We're going to use quickwood for this. I have my tube of quickwood, and anyone that's not used quickwood before, you can notice there's white and tan. It's a 2-part mix. So what we're going to do is you're going to need about, let's see, 3/4 of an inch to start with. So I'm going to slice it off about 3/4 of an inch, and you're going to knead this really well. And you want to knead your quickwood until you don't see any of the white and tan separate. Like if you see any white mixed in there, you haven't mixed it enough, and you might run into soft spots when it goes to cure, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that it's kneaded really well. So I'm going to try and do this real quick here. Let me get mine kneaded. And I'm going to tear off a little pinch. I'm going to save that for later for his nose. So let's just lay that off to the side. I'm going to take this and roll it into a ball. And I'm going to kind of shape it into like a little fat egg. Now I like using a little bit of extender when I'm blending something into a surface. So let's put a little drop on your paper. I like to work on wax paper. Things can peel off easily on wax paper. On the wide end, you're going to want to start flattening it. That's the end that's going to go on the gourd. This is going to be his face. And I like pinching the edges out just a little bit. That helps with the blending. Bear with me, I'm actually have the camera here between my legs, so I'm trying to work so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start blending this in. Notice I placed it on the smaller end of the gourd. Start blending. Don't worry about the shape of it until you get it blended. Now see, I don't know if you can see that. That's not blended real well. I want his muzzle to look like it's actually part of the head. So you just use a dab of your extender, if I can find mine on the paper, and blend that real smooth so it looks like it's all one piece. Now if you don't get something smooth, don't worry. You can always take a little piece of sandpaper when it's cured and sand it smooth, but I don't like to sand, so I like to make sure it's smooth while I'm working on it. Okay, so we have it on here. Let me pull one over here. I have one that I was working on, and you can kind of see the shape I'm going to go for. Set that over. I'm going to start by shaping the top. I'm going to give him a little ridge on the top of his head. Make sure that's blended. Now when I blended that into the sides, I still kept the thickness in here because we're going to want to put eyes in there. So there we have it. Real simple. Now you can give him a long nose, a short one. It's your little noodle. So for eyes, let me pull this over here. We're actually going to use corsage pins. The corsage pins have a bigger head on them. You can use any size pin head, but for this size ornament, and proportion size, I'm going to use the corsage pin. So you're going to want to take your wire cutters and cut that head off so that you're left with the little pin heads. Now when you place these in, you're going to want to make sure that part you cut off is in. You don't want that sticking out on the top of his eye. So I'm going to push one on each side. One over here. Get a little push in. And then I'm going to take a little knife tool. If you don't have you can tell mine's well loved, 30 years of clay on there. You can always use a little paring knife or something like that, but you wouldn't want to use the same knife that you eat with. So, or if you have an X-Acto knife, that works well. I gave him 2 little marks here on the side for his eyes. I'm going to give him one up here on the top. Going to turn it over. One on each side there. One on the top. Then you'll notice out here the tip of his nose. We're going to kind of go for this look with his mouth open. See a little bit better. So I'm going to take my knife, blade tool, X-Acto knife, whatever you have. I'm going to give a little slice in there. Then you can take, if you have a wooden tool, if you don't have that with a point on, you can always use a pencil. That works well. I like to show different things that you can use around the house in case you don't have the funds to invest in clay tools. You don't necessarily need them. Or knitting needle. For this one, I'm going to use the knitting needle because I want him to have a little opening for his mouth. So I'm going to place that right at the base of that line we just marked. I'm going to give it a press in. I'm going to place my hand under here because I don't want to pull his muzzle down, so I'm going to sort of just support it with my thumb. I'm going to push it in, press, and I'm pulling out slightly. That's giving a little bit of a lip there to him. So let me refix that. I think I messed that up. There. Now that little piece of clay we saved, I'm going to roll a little ball. And we're going to place that there for his nose. Give him a little nose. Now that face is a little fat, so I'm just going to sort of squeeze it. I want him to have a little bit longer face there for a mouse. So I'm going to set that aside to cure. I like to let the faces cure before I add the hat because I have a tendency of sticking my fingers in the face and then messing my face up. So I have one sitting here that, yeah, he's pretty much cured, so we can go ahead and put the hat on. I'll lay him down. The hat is going to take maybe, probably about, let's see, let's get my ruler so you can see, maybe an inch. I'm going to cut off about an inch. That might, I think I did a little more than an inch, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and knead that. Again, you want to make sure that your quickwood is kneaded really well. You don't want to have something sculpted and you're at the end of it and only half of it's cured. So it's worth taking the extra time to make sure that it's kneaded really, really well. And you can keep quickwood for a long period of time as long as it's not mixed. So like I have opened this tube, but if I stick it back in the tube, close it up, it'll keep. Quickwood won't harden until you start mixing the two parts together, which makes it really nice to work with. Okay, so I have that mixed up, and I think I actually sliced off about 1.25 inches, which will work out okay, because what I'm going to do then is pull off 2 little balls. We'll save those for ears since I sliced a little more than I wanted for the hat. So I have 2 little balls. I'm going to save those there to the side. So for the hat, you'll notice here's a little hat. It comes up and down to the side. So we're gonna, I like to roll it into a nice ball first. Then you can take it, start rolling it out. I always tell people, use this pad part of your hand. People, when they use their fingers, have a tendency to make things real lumpy looking. You don't get quite as nice of a piece rolled out. So there, I've rolled that out. And you can see it's probably about 3.5 inches long. I'm going to take a little extender on my finger and I'm going to start flattening. But as I'm flattening, I'm pulling out the brim of his hat, and I'm just going the whole way around till I've formed the edges of his hat. And then I'm just going to place that on the head. Just make sure that it's secure the whole way around. And I have this like this. I'm going to give him a little bit of a twist. And when I get to the top, when I get to the top, I'm going to pull it down on itself with a little bit of a twist. I kind of want it a little bit pointy, so while this is curing, I actually will keep coming back to the hat and working with it. So in maybe 10 minutes, I'll come back and work with it a little more, make it stand up pointy how I want it. Now, you'll have to insert the little piece of wire on the top now before it cures so that you have something to hang it with. So I just take a piece of wire. A lot of times I'll just wrap it around the end of a pencil paintbrush and twist it and cut off a piece. I have one ready here so you can see. It's just a little loop. And I'm going to place that right in the top of that hat. Now, like I said, I'll keep coming back to that hat as it cures, because it's a little droopy right now, but that's okay. It'll cure really well here in about 10-15 minutes, but you want to keep watching it. A lot of times during class, I'll keep telling students, check your ears, check your hats, because we're constantly checking things as they cure so that we can shape and position them as we want. Now for the ears, we saved those 2 little balls aside for the ears. I'm going to dab my little finger into the extender, and I'm going to give a little bit of a push, but notice this side I kind of have it flattened out a little bit. We're going to do the same thing to the second one, and I'm going to pull it out a little. Now you can lift this off with a knife, X-Acto. My favorite tool, and I tell people that if you're going to have one tool, I would buy a steel blade. As you can see, mine's well loved. I use it a lot. The nice thing about this, you can slide it right under and lift something up without misshaping the ear or whatever you're working on. Now, again, if you don't have a pointy tool like this, it's okay. You can use a pencil, so I'll show you with the pencil. To do the ear, you're going to lay the pencil in and wrap it around. That's that. There's a fuzzy in there. So I have that wrapped around. And I'm going to poke that right in the hat. Right in the hat. the other one. I'm going to lift it. See how nice that lifts that up? If I was trying to pull that off the wax paper without lifting it with that tool, by the time I was done, my ear would be misshaped and wouldn't look very much like an ear. And we're going to go over to the other side, and we're going to push that in. Now when those start to cure, again, I'm going to come back to these and I'm going to start shaping them, and you'll notice on this one I took my tool and I sort of smoothed it out. As the ears were almost cured, I started flattening the edges to give him a nice look to his ear. Right now they're not real pretty looking. So come back to it in about, say, 10-15 minutes, and you can work with the ears. It'll look about like this. So I'm going to set him aside, and I'll work with him a little bit. But for the video's sake, I want to show you a few other things while that's curing. The tail. His little tail is a piece of wire covered with brown floral tape. So I have a little Dremel tool that's above my workbench here that I just drilled a teeny tiny hole. I took a piece of wire. I have one here finished. It's wrapped in floral tape. And floral tape, I use the brown. So if you've never used this before, just pull a piece off. And I think my piece of wire is maybe 3 inches long. So I'm going to start, and it sticks to itself. Start it there on the end of the wire. Yeah, my hands have extender on them. Usually I clean my hands after I'm sculpting, so everything's wanting to, I'm just trying to show you quick here so you know. You can wrap it the whole way down. There we go. So you're going to want to go the whole way down your piece of wire. Get to the end, just tear it off. And I actually wanted it to be, here I have a little, there. If you just keep twisting it, I wanted him to look like he had, you can see there, a little pointy tail. So then I just take, after I have it painted, let me grab here, I like using the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. I just glued it in that little hole. And then, to finish him off, it's just a scrap piece of cheesecloth, little scrap piece of cheesecloth wrapped around there. Now, if you don't have these little holly picks, I get them from Factory Direct. You can get a bag full of them. I don't know how many's in a bag, but if you don't have them, you can use any little pine spray, or you can even make some out of quickwood. So you don't have to purchase, or you can use some fabric, whatever you have on hand. And then the little snow there, I actually used the Aleene's Glitter Snow. So I did a little bit on the scarf, a little bit on the top of the hat. I think the colors I used on this were primary red Americana. The green was the Hauser light green. The mouse, I did him in the light cinnamon. I wanted a brown mouse because Little Noodles at my daughter's house is a brown mouse. So you could do a white mouse, you could do a gray mouse. He's your mouse. And I think that's about it. So I hope you enjoy and have fun making noodles. Thanks.